822 here, Big 550 KTRS. David Stokes joins us. He is head of development. He basically runs the Show Me Institute. That's who are we kidding? And he joins us every Monday. But since it's Tuesday, we'll allow him on. Good morning, David Stokes.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
We have talked about how the new Max Creek law is sitting on the governor's desk, which will curtail the tickets. However, the story in the newspaper over the weekend that says that great tickets are going to be curtailed, but trees and shrubs and cars and lights and branches and all that type of stuff, these cities are going to run rampant now, charging all these fines and fees to make up for the tickets they can't write.
And it's a real risk, and it's a very well-done story in the Post-Dispatch. I do recommend it, and it's definitely a risk of that happening. These cities saying, we're not going to change anything, we're not going to make cuts, we're not going to reduce services, we're not going to seek ways to work with other cities or the counties to save money and still provide services.
To tell you how bad it was, Jennifer Mann's story you're quoting, in Pagedale, they handed out 2,255 citations last year for things of this nature, 2 per household, and that's a 500% increase from 5 years ago.
Well, it's ridiculous. That needs to be addressed too. Now, here's why. If this is the change from traffic ticket revenue to property maintenance revenue, we'll put them all under the phrasing of property maintenance, it's still progress. And let me explain. We obviously have a working majority in Jeff City, assuming that the governor signs the Max Creek law changes,
right,
which he is expected to, and when he does, I will praise him for it.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously have a working majority on that. If this is the next thing cities can do, then next year in Jefferson City, they can hopefully pass a law capping these types of bills.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, 2 other reasons why it's still progress. While this is a joke that they might start funding cities now based on your shutters being in disrepair, your grass is a 1/4 inch too long. Look, it's still not quite as harmful as the traffic ticket scams that they've been running. Meaning, you're not going to lose your driver's license over it, which prevents you from getting to work, which costs people their jobs.
Actually, they are putting holds on driver's license illegally, so you can pay these fines. So they're actually... you're not losing your license, but they're putting an illegal hold on your driver's license,
and that has to be stopped. Whether they switch to funding by property maintenance or not, I mean, there's finally publicity for these illegal things that they're doing, and that needs to be cracked down on. So even it sounds like I would be defending these property maintenance citations. I'm not at all.
Right.
But still, you're not supposed to lose your job, which then means you can't get to work, so you don't lose your license, so then you start driving illegally, and then you get pulled over for driving without a license, and that's a real crime, not a property maintenance, your grass is too long crime. So, but most importantly, and the key reason I'm not afraid of this change, even though I don't want it, is because when these cities learn that when they fund themselves through bogus citations of their own residents, as opposed to bogus traffic citations of people driving through their city, their own residents are going to react. Their own residents are going to vote these people out of office. At least I hope to goodness they do, because here they are. Now they're targeting their own citizens, and you can take care of that through democracy. You can take care of that by putting a group together, running new people for office, that says, you know what, we're going to stop this, and you can stop it.
Yes, and I think in a perfect world, I think you have a legitimate point. But the truth is, though, people who are even in the richest communities, the incumbents have an unfair advantage, right? Because of name recognition, and they help you with this and they help you with that, and so incumbents usually win, even if there is a big groundswell of people complaining that hey, you wrote a ticket here and so on and so forth. I agree with you. There's only so much that can be done. The people have to be aware of it. You have to be an informed voter to say, I'm being taken advantage of by this lawyer, by this alderman. I lived in the city for 11, 12, 13 years, and I had a boarded up house next to me for 13 years, and I couldn't get anybody to do anything with that house. So, I mean, here's a deal where you have people living in a house in Pagedale being cited, and in the city of St. Louis, I was living next to a boarded up house where we all knew the owner, but he wasn't getting fined for that house. So I mean, I know it's apples and oranges, but it's just sort of frustrating that, property damage or unsightly property is a real nuisance to a community, but also targeting that property is also a nuisance.
It's a real danger because you never want to be the target. You never be on the we know, I don't have any proof of this, but we know that if you're a strong supporter of the alderman in power, you're less likely to be targeted for your grass than if you're an opponent of the alderman in power. That's just how it works, unfortunately. But as we saw in Ferguson, where new people got together and ran for office, and they elected 2 new people to that city council who were change candidates, not necessarily the chosen protest candidates, but still change candidates. We saw that they're getting that change in Ferguson. And if in Pagedale or the many other cities, it's not just North County at all. I mean, the small towns around this state, if they switch to targeting their own residents even more aggressively with property maintenance violations, I do predict that you're going to see a lot of disincorporation efforts, or you're going to see a lot of wholesale changes of those mayors and city councilmen all over the state, and that would be a very good thing. It's time for people to take over their small cities, and it's easier to do this in a small city, McGraw, than it is in the city of St. Louis with 300,000 people.
This one family was living in a house for 20 years. In April, the inspector sent a list of 17 demands for the property. They were given a 30-day deadline to fix things. Add screens and curtains to the windows. Remove a dead branch from an oak tree. Replace a missing shingle. Use weed killer. Finish repairing the garage and install a rear screen door. The rehabs cost $100 a month, has grown to $1,800 a month, and $1,000 of that was due to non-traffic violations. They still have $800 to pay off.
I think the problem, though, is also some of these really small municipalities who would come forward to run against, incumbents. I think that's a problem, too.
But the argument is, what does Pagedale actually give in terms of services to its residents?
Right.
Very little. I would say that they give nothing that St. Louis County, if it was an unincorporated area, that St. Louis County couldn't do better for lower taxes.
Yes.
And when they start, as I say, for 50 years now, the cities, even though every person who lives in that small city has been victimized by all the cities around them for traffic tickets, at least the people at Pagedale would be saying to their own people, hey, we're not targeting you for tickets, we're targeting those people who drive through, so we're targeting them. When they start targeting their own residents, it's going to make people mad, and people have a solution to vote them out. That said, I would be in complete support, if this gets bad, of next year in Jefferson City passing a cap, say 5% on total amount of money you can be raised from other type of property maintenance citations.
Getting a violation, getting a ticket from your own community for not having a screen door on your back door is ridiculous. I mean, give me a break. I mean, this isn't like you have a broken down truck in your driveway or on your lawn. You don't have a screen door in your back door, so that's a violation. I mean, these people can't win.
They're just going through fine-tooth comb for every home.
And property maintenance codes in a lot of cities are far more detailed than people realize, and they're selectively enforced. And you know what? They're unnecessarily detailed. If you've ever sold a home and had an inspector come to your house and tell you all the things you have to do before you sell the house, I mean, most of it's fairly ridiculous.
I had to buy numbers to put on my alleyway when I was in the city. They wouldn't. I couldn't sell the house in the city unless I put the numbers of the house on the fence in the alleyway.
A great example, something totally unnecessary that government has no business enforcing or requiring.
They survived for 13 years without the numbers on the back. How,
You and your guests were able to find your house. Whoever you sold the house to would be able to find it.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's hardly a problem, but this would be a bad thing. It would not be surprising at all, but there are ways for people and other elected officials to address this problem in the same way that they addressed the Max Creek law changes in the last session.
David Stokes, Show Me Institute Director of Development. David, have a good week.
Thanks, McGraw. Thanks, Kelly.